Welcome to From Beyond The Paign, an Illinois basketball podcast. I'm Cody. You can follow me on Twitter at Cody_CHGO or on TikTok as well. Illinois wins 85-80 at Maryland, guys. Let me emphasize this. They won at Maryland, something they hadn't done since 2011. Holy shit. It is about damn time that Brad Underwood got a road win in College Park. It finally happened today. What was your favorite part of the last 4,463 days? For me, of all the things that have happened in the last 4,463 days, probably the Chicago Cubs winning the World Series. But if we're going to go with a college basketball reference, I would say my favorite part. If we're going strictly college basketball, my favorite part of the last 4,463 days. I don't know, man. There's not a lot of incredible things that have happened for me from college basketball. I mean, we got the pleasure of getting to watch Ayo Dosunmu. We got the pleasure of getting to watch some fun Illinois teams, winning the Big Ten. If I were to go strictly Illini based, watching Purdue lose to a 16 seed last year in the NCAA tournament was pretty fun. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We're gonna get into the last time Illinois won at College Park. I was looking at the roster in the box score, and honestly, that's a little bit of the reason why I'm starting a little late tonight in terms of after the game. I also watched Brad Underwood's post-game presser, and I just wanted to hear what he had to say regarding that game. So, Illinois wins 85-80. Love to hear your thoughts on this win. I see some people in the chat already. A lot of things to kind of talk about. We'll look at the schedule ahead. There's some moments in this game I'd love to talk about. Obviously, some players and whatnot. So, again, if you're on YouTube, hit the like button. If you hit the like button, it helps other Illini fans find the podcast. That is why I push that as much as I do. If you hit the like button, it helps other Illini fans find the podcast. You can also subscribe on Spotify. And if you like looking at my face and look at me watching or looking at a camera on my MacBook Air, you can just hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel. Again, trying to get to 500 subscribers before the end of the college basketball season. We're around 372 last time I checked. So, I appreciate all the support you guys have given. And I do all those things, and I will give you tons and tons of credit. Anyway, let's go to the comment section real quick just to get the vibes. Hiberto. I hope I'm saying your name right, brother. I'm sorry. Says, can't wait to see what you're going to say about the BS Kevin Willard pulled catching that ball. I know what player you're talking about. The one where they threw that outlet pass to Terrence Shannon, and it was a little too far ahead of him, and Kevin Willard just goes ahead and grabs the ball. I believe he had a foot. I didn't even realize this during the moment, but I eventually went back and watched it. He happened to be on the court, basically, and then he kind of chirped back at him when Terrence Shannon Jr. tried to, make his case that, something should have happened. Should have been a technical foul, something. We could talk a little bit about that. In the moment, I won't lie, it was just kind of whatever. But it was a weird moment, right? Yeah. So, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. JT in the chat. Let's go, Cody. ILL. I, brother. I, man. So let's just my overall reaction from this game. Again, first win in College Park since the Bruce Weber era. John Gross didn't even win there, And I know Maryland didn't come to the Big Ten till 2015 or something like that. But either way, I don't care. John Gross couldn't even beat Maryland. Brad Underwood has beat Maryland, just not in College Park, right? So it's a huge, huge win for Brad Underwood. He can finally mark that one off the list, or check it off the list, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what I'm saying now. It's late. It's Saturday. I'm doing this podcast instead of drinking with my friends. Credit to me. Um, and I'm going through it right now. But Brad Underwood, finally gets a win in College Park. Very much due. I mean, they've had some close games and in this venue before, and it just felt like they could just never get over the hump. And there was a moment in this game where I really felt like they were going to blow it. And then, honestly, Marcus Damask saved the game. So the play was, and you guys all probably remember it, but I think Terrence Shannon Jr. jacked up a three. It's a long rebound. Him and Coleman Hawkins, and I think Justin Harmon, all three go after the ball. Coleman Hawkins gets it, and he's running out of bounds. He can't stop his momentum, and he just throws the ball over his head. And I'm just going to be honest, that was a boneheaded play to throw it as far back as he did. Like, they always tell you to not throw the ball to the other team's, backcourt or whatever, right? Like, if anything, he should have just tried to just tip it to Terrence or someone. It's in the moment. I understand, but I believe you're always taught to not, heave it like that, right? Anyway, Maryland gets it, and it's like a 2-on-1 break. And I believe it was Marcus Damask at the very other end of the floor who, didn't foul and forced the Maryland, I think it was Young. I want to say it was Jameer Young. Correct me in the chat if I'm wrong on that. But he missed the layup, and I believe Justin Harmon ends up getting it and heaves it down to Coleman Hawkins wide open for a dunk. And it was a shift of momentum. And whenever Coleman Hawkins threw that ball back and Maryland got it, if they score that layup, I believe they take the lead. Instead, Illinois extends their 1-point lead, I believe they had, and it never got close again. And that was probably the moment of the game, right? Like, I can't think of a moment bigger. I'm going to go back to the ESPN app and make sure that I'm getting this all right, because I don't want to be telling a fake news. But I can't remember. It was in those last 3 minutes, right? Terrence Shannon. It would have been smart to maybe look at this before I started the podcast, but trying to see. I don't see where it might have happened. If you guys know, let me know. Maybe it was definitely in those last 3 minutes though, and I'm just not seeing it in this like play-by-play on the ESPN app. But I just felt like that was the biggest moment of the game that benefited Illinois. It was a complete change of momentum. If Maryland makes that, the crowd just erupts, and it would have felt like Michigan State all over again. But they came through in a big moment defensively, right? And I think we've talked about it, especially recently, about how the defense for Illinois has been bad. And tonight I feel like the first half defensively wasn't great. Maryland was shooting 50% at halftime. Before the game, they ended up shooting under 50%. They ended up shooting 41% for the game. So better defensively from the Illini in the second half. It helps when Maryland, goes 4 of 18 from the 3-point line. But I mean, the fact that they still put up 80 points going 4 of 18 might be a little alarming for some. They still, points in the paint. Maryland won that battle 44-36, but Illinois didn't shoot well from 3. They only shot 5 of 20. They started the game hot. They made like 3 or 4 of those threes in the first 3 minutes of the game, but they shot well inside. They were able to get into paint at will almost. It helped that they got into the double bonus pretty early in that second half, which we can talk about that too. Like the fouls in this game. Honestly, and I'm not complaining about the refs. I'm just complaining in some facet of like the game got unwatchable because you just felt like there was a whistle every single time down the court. But Illinois made their free throws. They went 32 of 36 at the free throw line today. Like, they've had some games where they've been bad at the free throw line. They were on the road and they made their free throws today, and got to give them credit there, right? So, yeah, I mean, they did all the little things that you need to do to win on the road. Sure, do I get, based on how I feel about the team moving forward, do I feel any better than I did before the game? I mean, I feel better than if they would have lost, right? I think it was a win that you had to get, right? Like, forget about the history against Maryland. Forget about all of that. This was a game that if you're Illinois, you better had won. You're the better team. They had Julian Reese and they had Jameer Young. Dante Scott had himself a nice game too, but they can't shoot the three. They're not a good offensive team, in all honesty. And even though you're on the road, you still won the game. And I'll give credit where credit is due. Like, we've seen it be hard to win on the road in this conference, not just from Illinois, but like even Purdue. Purdue's gone to Northwestern, lost. It's gone to Nebraska, lost. They've won games that you felt like Purdue probably should have won by a lot more, but on the road in tough environments. I think about the game they've had at Rutgers a few weeks ago. I know Rutgers is seemingly turning their season around, but it's just not like they ended up winning that game, but it wasn't a pretty win for them. But you give them credit because they went on the road and won a game. And that's basically what I'm saying here is, Illinois won by 5 and they're clearly a better team than Maryland, but it's just hard to go on the road in this conference. And I think it's hard to go on the road in college basketball in general. All right. So, yeah, I mean, I just felt like Illinois came out strong to start the game. They shot the ball well early, and I thought that was key. Sorry, my phone is going off, and I got to turn Do Not Disturb on. They came out and they hit shots early. I thought they were able to get whatever they wanted offensively early on, and I liked the tone that they set, and then it kind of got a little streaky. You felt like they'd get like a 6-7 point lead, but then Maryland would make a run, get it back to a couple possessions. There were a few times they took a lead, whatever, but Illinois would answer back and be the team that they were, which is better than Maryland. So, I think it's a win to build off of, right? Like, I feel pretty good going to Penn State next after this, right? Like, Penn State's not good. They've had some, they beat Wisconsin. I like their coach who did well at VCU. But we know that, they're Illinois is better than them, right? But I just think that this was a good win to build off of. Nothing to read too much into or against. Everyone was pretty hyped after the Michigan game, and I was trying to like not let myself get too hyped because it's Michigan and they're bad. But I do think that was the start of, at least seeing better defense. Illinois played better defensively today, even though they still gave up 80 points. The fact that Maryland shot 41% for the game, and specifically shot a lot worse in the second half, is a good sign. It's a good sign. And, Jameer Young, it felt like he was cooking in that first half. He ended up with 28 points. Took 28 shots to get there. He got to the free throw line 11 times. And he was, he was the offense for them today. And I think he's, first team all Big Ten at somewhere in that range, right? Like, he's just been very good all season, averaging 20 points a game. Like, he's really good. And he came to play today, right? I thought Terrence Shannon Jr. did as good as he could on the times that he was on him. And he forced tough shots, and I think he just made tough shots. Sometimes guys just make shots, and that's just the state of the type of talent that's in the game today. I think I just think in some of the buckets that Maryland got, they deserve a lot of credit. I will say I liked at the end of the game that Ty Rodgers was out there, we talked about after the loss at Michigan State, where was Ty Rodgers? Well, he was out there today. So I don't know. Maybe Brad Underwood realized, in needing more defense out there in those moments in close games compared to the spacing. Especially when you had Terrence going, you had Damask going, who finishes with 19. You still have Coleman out there. As long as you have those three guys out there, I think you're going to need Ty Rodgers out there. If it's a close game, you're going to need him out there for defense and rebounding and getting those loose balls and stuff like that. So I liked seeing Ty Rodgers out there at the end of the game today. He finished with 29 minutes, which against Michigan State, he finished with like 21. So good to see him out there for a longer stretch today. I thought Quincy Guerrier had a nice game, 9 points. He did make a 3 today. Even though he only went 2 of 5, and hell, he only played like 19 minutes. I just like that he wasn't hesitant when he got the ball. He was open for 3. He shot it, and that's his role. Hopefully they go in, but he's got to shoot the ball, man. Like the pump fake drive and kick it out shit. It gets to a point to where it's like defenses are recognizing that you don't want to shoot the ball. Today, I felt like he shot the ball with confidence. Hopefully, he starts to get back to how he was in December soon. Thought he played a pretty decent game against Michigan the other day. So, back-to-back decent games for Quincy Guerrier. Again, nothing special. He did hit 4 of his 5 free throws. I just felt like he was active and, probably should rebound a little bit more. Only had 1 rebound, but on the offensive end, at least, it was good to see. And whenever he's getting shots up and he is making shots, it only makes Terrence and Damask and Coleman even more lethal. So I thought that, I think that when you things you take away from this game, it's stuff like him, right? So Adam in the chat, he brings up another good point. Harmon with some really nice plays in winning time. I agree. He also he had that and one with that patented like drive and like teardrop shot that we've seen him do a handful of times this year. He finished it with 10 points, made all 3 of his free throws, 3 of 6. He hit a 3, 1 of 3 from the 3-point line. I felt like he defended well. I don't think he was getting cooked at the end by anyone. I thought he played really hard. And again, I'm happy to see that Ty Rodgers had more minutes than him today. Just by 3, he had 26 minutes, but he made all those minutes count. He was about the only one who really did anything off the bench. I did like seeing Hansberry get out there. Luke Goody pretty much was non-existent today. He was in foul trouble the entire game, had 4 fouls, but Harmon stepping up. Usually when you're at least getting one guy off the bench that is giving you something, you can survive, especially with this Illini team that has so many options with Shannon, Coleman, and Damask, right? So for Harmon to basically be that 4th option today, anytime he is that and provides the production he does, you feel like Illinois is going to win. So yeah, I'm pretty content about a lot of it. So Illinois now 19-6. They're ranked 14th in the country this week. They won 2 games this week. They've kind of gone up, down the last like 4 weeks. I think they'll probably be back in the top 10 next week for the AP poll after this win. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Chris Miller in the chat. He brings up Jason Benetti bringing up the Steve Bartman reference, which made me laugh a little bit, even as a Cubs fan. Big of me to admit. I believe it was. I can't remember the play. Was that the moment? Yeah, that was the moment of Willard taking the ball. On the out of bound, or when Shannon was trying to get it right. I don't know why I didn't put 2 and 2 together there. But yeah, I mean, You, as a White Sox fan, you just knew he was like, oh, I can finally reference Steve Bartman in a college basketball broadcast. Like you knew, like he's just been like waiting to maybe find a way to insert it in there sometime. You just knew it, right? Yeah. So I respect it because I just think he's a great broadcaster. Him and Robbie Hummel are a dynamic duo. They should be doing, honestly, like it should be them doing the national championship game and some of the most highlighted games of the day throughout college basketball slates. In my opinion, I think they're the best personally. So maybe one day they'll both get there, but yeah, it was pretty funny with that reference that he made. So now that's pretty much how I feel about the game. I felt like they did what they had to do. Obviously, there's some things they need to improve on. Brad Underwood said in post game, Terrence, he already found some little things. And listen, this is why I love Brad as a coach, because even after a win like this and he gets his first win in College Park, he's still thinking about things that could have been better, things that certain guys can do better. And he talked about how he is encouraging Terrence to get on the boards more and stuff like that. He had 1 rebound. Again, Guerrier, who I feel like his game starts to really go once he gets on the boards. He only had 1 rebound today, right? Maybe he has a better day today if he's on the boards, right? Damask had 12 rebounds today. Coleman Hawkins, he got his 500th career rebound today. He had 7. He just had a complete game, 14 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal. The 1 steal he had led to 2 free throws because him and Shannon got out in the fast break. He just continues to just be a force that I had never seen before with him in Illinois. He's been as consistent as can be since he's came back from that injury back in December. He really has. And coming into the year, I wouldn't say that I wasn't high on the guy, but I just didn't think that he would make as big an impact as he has. And that's just because I just feel like I've seen what I've seen and he is who he is. I think he's climbing up draft boards, in my opinion. If he's not, then I don't know what other people are saying. He's very easy to just want to be like, oh yeah, he's like a Kevin Durant type because he plays the 4 and he can shoot the 3 and he's long and lengthy and he's athletic and stuff like that. He can get out in transition and dribble the ball, lead a fast break, all these things that Kevin Durant does at his size, right? Again, I'm not comparing him to Kevin Durant. He's definitely not climbing up draft stock like that. Kevin Durant was like a number 2 overall pick, but his style of play fits the NBA, right? Like I feel like he should be getting more attention, I guess. And I feel like maybe it's not there. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, guys. But he's definitely a very, very, very much improved player compared to last year. I fully believe that. I think we all agree with that at this point. So he just continues to be an absolute force defensively. He's going to be on that. He's going to be in the running for Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, right? Like he has to be. He has to be, right? So I was happy to see Coleman kind of a bounce back game. Didn't have the best game against Michigan. They didn't need him to have the best game against Michigan, but he definitely bounced back today, even though he did get in foul trouble. He even had 4 fouls today. Damask ended up scoring his 2,000th career point, so congrats to him. 19 points, 12 rebounds, double-double. Only 2 turnovers. He had 0 against Michigan, 2 today. He didn't turn it over in the backcourt. He didn't get hit, he didn't get picked by Jameer Young or anyone like that. Like that's been probably when he turns it over, that's probably the ones I think me and other fans probably are like, frustrated by. He didn't do that today, which is good because they're on the road. And usually when that happens, it leads to runs. And just good to see that. And then finally, Terrence Shannon Jr., 27 points, 4 blocks, 4 blocks. There's one particular block he had on Jameer Young on a drive to the basket. That was just kind of like one of those, all right, dude, like you're done. You're done getting whatever you want. And, I don't remember how many points he had at that time, but it was one of those moments where I felt like Illinois' defense had started to pick itself up there in that second half. So yeah, 27 points, 4 blocks, 2 assists, again, 1 rebound. Would love to see him get on the boards more as well. with Brad. Only 1 of 7 from 3. Again, Illinois didn't shoot well from 3 today. But 14 of 16 from the free throw line, which means he was going to the basket. He was getting downhill. There was many times where they'd get a defensive rebound and he was off to the races, man. There was one particular play, it was kind of a long rebound. He gets the ball, and with a matter of seconds, he's at the basket on the other end. Like he just found a way to make an impact. And he's just been a lot more efficient in these last handful of games, right? Against Michigan State, obviously had a great game against Michigan. And, you know, he had a decent game against Nebraska as well. So he's starting to pick it up. You know, Brad really talked about his defensive intensity and his just overall playing better on the defensive side in post game today too. And listen, like he mentioned again that they don't run a lot to Terrence in the half court, and it's true, they don't. How many times do we watch them come down and Damask is going straight to booty ball, or they pass it around and we get in driving kicks, or, you know, pick and roll, you know, dish it off to someone, whoever's rolling, right? Like watching the Illinois play in the half court, it's nothing like mind blowing. Like we know basically what they're trying to do. They're trying to get a lot of open 3-point looks, or they're trying to get easy baskets inside. And a lot of what Terrence does is in transition. It really is. It really is. That said, you know, when he gets that 3-ball going, which is all based off probably a lot of those, you know, driving kicks that, you know, whether it's Damask or Harmon, sometimes Hawkins, you know, like, or he's creating something himself, you know, like it's very simple stuff. Like it's not brain surgery to figure out. And I say all that, but Illinois is still one of the best offensive teams in the country. So that goes to show how good of talent they have on this team. So yeah, no, when Terrence is getting to the free throw line that many times, it's like they should win every one of these games. That's why it was so frustrating that they lost to Michigan State. He was more efficient in that game. He went to the free throw line double-digit times. They should have won that game, and that's why it's frustrating they lost that game. But again, they win today in a game that they absolutely needed to win. In my opinion, they needed to win this game. So Peter Jockstrap in the chat. Glad to have this drought over. Belima hasn't ate a veggie since 2011. Let's break the streak next. Good God, Peter. Cook, man. Cook. Lonnie Osborne, Penn State's always good at home. I agree. Won't be. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. All I'm saying is that you're better than them and you should win there. You should win there. That's all I'm saying. When I was mentioning that earlier, if you're listening to, you know, if you're behind on the show. So yeah, we'll see. But we'll get to that here at the end of the show a little bit. Now, okay, this is my favorite part now. Like, I really want to talk about the roster in 2011, okay? So, Illinois, before today, Illinois had beat Maryland 1, 2, 3 times since they had last won at College Park. They had beat Maryland only 3 times total since they had last beat them at College Park, in College Park. All right. And one of those times was in the State Farm Center in the 2014-2015 season. They won 64-57. The second time was on a neutral site at Madison Square Garden, where they won 78-67 in 2019. And at home at State Farm Center in the 2021-2022 season, where they won 76-64. So, going back to look at this, on November 29th, 2011, I don't believe Maryland was even part of the Big Ten yet. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, guys. But Illinois won 71-62 in College Park behind Sam Maniscalco's 24 points, brother. Brandon Paul had 17. Myers Leonard had 12. En route to a 71-62 win at Maryland. The starting five was those three, Tyler Griffey and DJ Richardson. Luther Head's brother, Crandall Head, was on the bench. Nana Egwu, Illini legend, never forget. Tracy Abrams, he was on the bench. Mike Shaw, Mike Henry. Oh my God, some names in here. Joseph Bertrand. Oh my God. What a list of names. What a list of names. 13,000 were in attendance. And to be honest, when Illinois won this game, they improved to 7-0. Oh man. Those were some times, man. Those were some times. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. I love looking back at like former players and stuff. In 2011, I was like in my early 20s. So even at that point, a lot of those players, I still looked at them a lot differently than I do now as an adult. So, or as like a full-blown adult. So I just wanted to read the names. By far, my favorite part of the show. I knew that this was going to be my favorite part of the show. John Lee in the chat. Illinois needs to win out or lose to Purdue only. I mean, they're better than every team left except for Purdue, right? And I think they can beat Purdue. They almost beat Purdue at Mackey Arena. They could certainly beat Purdue at home, right? Wisconsin lost to Iowa today. Bro, they've been in a bad place these last handful of weeks. Went to overtime with Iowa and lost today. To me, that's a bad loss. I don't think Iowa's any good. This is their first like quad one win of the year was today for Iowa. It is a bad loss for Wisconsin, in my opinion. And they never really controlled that game at all. Peter Jockstrap. Purdue will run the conference. Second isn't bad for us though. Yeah, I'm pretty much at a point where I'm content that Purdue is going to win this conference, the regular season title. I mean, I do think Purdue is better than Illinois. That doesn't mean that I don't think that Illinois couldn't give them a run for their money. Doesn't mean that I don't think Illinois, if they somehow, some way ended up facing each other in March, doesn't mean that I don't think Illinois could somehow get the upset win. Doesn't mean that at all. But you look at the teams on paper and you look at what Purdue has done. They have 2 losses on the season. They don't have one bad loss. Their loss to Nebraska and Northwestern aren't bad losses. Northwestern, I know Ty Berry's out for the rest of the year, but they're probably still an NCAA tournament team. Nebraska, at the time when they lost to Nebraska, you might have thought that it was a bad loss, but hell, Illinois almost lost to them at home. They have some nice wins. They're probably in the NCAA tournament. So Purdue, they don't have any bad losses. They have the best player in college basketball on top of some really good guards and Braden Smith and Lance Jones and Fletcher Lawyer. Their bench is pretty deep as well. Mason Gillis, his face, I want to punch it. Like, yes, this is all very big of me to say. All right. I shouldn't say any of this, but I give credit where credit is due. All right. They've come back this season with a vengeance after losing to a 16 seed, Fairleigh Dickinson, last year. And they have a chip on their shoulder. I would put them and UConn as the top 2 teams in college basketball right now. Undoubtedly. They've been the most impressive. Illinois, I think we can all agree, they go through stretches where you're like, oh, this team could go to a Final Four. Oh, this team could, go to the second weekend. This team can make some noise in March. And then they'll have games like they did against Michigan State. And they'll lose to Maryland at home. And they almost lose to Indiana. And, they probably should have lost to Nebraska too. And there's been moments where you're just kind of like, is this team it? I don't know. It would have been nice if they could have beat Tennessee. I know Coleman Hawkins wasn't healthy when they played Marquette. But they don't like, you look at their schedule and you're like, they really don't have a bad loss outside of Maryland. Really, Michigan State's still tough on the road, even though they should have won that game. But it's definitely fair to say that Purdue has been a lot more impressive than Illinois. So again, that's just where I'm at. I hope that changes. I really do hope that changes. I want to be able to say that Illinois is better than them, right? So yeah, that's basically it on that. But yeah, I'm pretty much, if they have a chance to win the Big Ten, once the regular season is over because Purdue somehow gets upset and then you beat Purdue themselves in Champaign, awesome, great, would be a hell of a story for this team this year. But I think a lot of us are pretty content with second. I honestly want to worry more about March than I do winning the regular season title. Would love to win the Big Ten tournament just because you'll get the double bye if you should stay in the top two, right? But I'm pretty much over it. But we'll see. Okay. All right. We're about 36 minutes in. Again, if you're new here, you want to hit the like button for me, I'd appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button as well if you don't. It means a lot. Again, Illinois wins 85-80 at Maryland. Let's go through the upcoming schedule. We were talking about Penn State a little bit. Illinois now still 2 games back of Purdue, by the way, in the standings. They have Penn State next. Then they go back home and face Iowa. And then they host Minnesota. So they have another road game next Wednesday. Then Iowa comes to Champaign and Minnesota comes to Champaign the Wednesday after. So Penn State, they have been kind of an annoying team to some teams, right? They beat Wisconsin. Let's see. They almost beat Northwestern. They beat Iowa, which doesn't really mean anything to me, but Iowa just beat Wisconsin today, so I'm just using that as more fuel on Wisconsin. Let's see. They beat Rutgers. I know Rutgers is a complete different team now than when they played them. They've hung tough with a lot of teams. They don't roll over, right? So I don't expect this to be an easy, huge win or anything, especially on the road, as we've talked about in this podcast, that winning on the road is hard. But again, they are better than Penn State, and they should go to Penn State and they should win the game. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it when they go there next week. And that's just how it has to be. I hope it's not a trap game because I know Iowa is a rivalry game. So you can't take your focus off of anything there. Yeah. I mean, to me, Illinois should win outside of Purdue. They should win every single game that's left on their schedule. There's no reason that they shouldn't. What's up, Chris? I see you in the chat. He says Penn State's better than their record. I've watched them. They've played tough against a lot of teams. They have. I think with their new coach, here in the next couple of years, they could, even as early as next year, maybe they could be something. Their run last year was really impressive. It sucks that they lost Shrewsbury. I'm sure Penn State fans are happy that he's struggling at Notre Dame. But yeah, it is never easy to go to Penn State and win. It's always tough to go there and win, but Illinois is better than them. And so that's my expectation, is to go there and win. Iowa, as bad as they are, in my opinion, they're still going to be tough since it's a rivalry game. You got Minnesota coming to Illinois in a couple weeks. They're a lot better team than what many people expected, but still, you should beat them. They go to Wisconsin on March 2nd, which we'll see how Wisconsin is playing by then. Maybe they get their shit together. Maybe they get up for that game because they realize they've been struggling and they realize that they need to win that game for, seeding and stuff like that, their tournament resume. And then obviously Purdue comes to Illinois, and that's something I think both Purdue and Illinois rosters on their calendars. They have that game circled. They really, I believe that, Matt Painter has that game circled, and so does Brad Underwood, right? And then Illinois closes the regular season out at Iowa March 10th, which I look forward to just for rivalry reasons. And hopefully they beat Purdue and they can go to Iowa and sweep the season series to close out the year. So, Illinois is 19-6 right now. It should very easily finish the season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 20, 24-7 at the very least, right? So yeah, I feel pretty confident in it. I guess for me, the big questions are like, how's this team playing defensively going into March? It seems like Terrence Shannon is back to himself. Again, been a lot more efficient over these last handful of games. It took a while, right? But it seems that he is in a groove now. You got him, Damask, and Coleman all playing pretty well together. Now, if you can get a little bit more consistency out of Harmon and Guerrier, I think you're going to feel really good at the end of the year. So that's, to me, like I said this at the beginning, at the end of January, I think my outlook on Illinois in February was, are you playing better than you did at the end of January? Are you playing better than that at the end of February going into March? And at this point, I do feel like they are playing better than they did in January right now. And obviously, a lot of different circumstances happened in January that's not normal that led to how they were playing. But it seems like they are getting their shit together for the most part. Again, they should have beat Michigan State. Almost lost in Nebraska. These last two wins have been much needed and exactly what you would want to see if you're an Illini fan looking ahead to March and seeing if this team can really make a run at something, right? So anyway, Mac in the chat is asking, could Illinois get a 3 seed? Well, I did see on like the mock draft or whatever they call it, came out today. They had, the bracketologists had Illinois as like a 4 seed. They maybe get a 3 seed if they beat Purdue and they can, I don't know, maybe win the Big Ten tournament. I don't know. I'm pretty content with a 3 or a 4 seed at this point. They obviously could have got a higher seed if you don't have that bad loss to Maryland. Maybe if you beat Tennessee or Marquette as well. It is what it is, but I'll take a 3 or a 4 seed year in and year out in the NCAA tournament for this program. Christopher says, if Illinois doesn't make the Elite Eight or better, it would be a letdown in my opinion. I mean, that's fair, man. I'm not telling people how to fan or anything like that. I guess for me, it's just like, they haven't made it the second weekend since 2005. For me, it's like, get me to the Sweet 16 and then I can dream a little bit more. I do think that they have the roster to be able to go to a Final Four. I do think they play the style of a good style of play to be able to have success in March. But Brad Underwood has this monkey on his chest or his on his shoulder, like tapping him, like, "Hey, man, you haven't had success in March with this university. Like, when are you going to get it done?" And it's, for me, it's like wait and see. But certainly, you look at the roster, you look at how this team has played against some of the best teams. You look at how this team without Terrence Shannon went to Purdue and only lost by 5. Like, yeah, certainly. I could certainly say what you just said in this comment, right? But for me, personally, Sweet 16, that's the goal. For me, that's the goal right now. And we'll see what happens after. Just trying to enjoy the ride as much as I can, man. Because when I read that roster back in 2011 in the Bruce Weber era, man, those are some dark times. Even though I was a big Brandon Paul and DJ Richardson and Myers Leonard guy, but those teams were never threats to do anything in March, right? So I guess I'm just trying to enjoy the fact that this team arguably could be the best team since that 04-05 team that went to the Final Four. In some ways, I think it's better than the Io and Kofi and Trent team a few years ago that was a 1 seed in some ways, just because of their play style and how that type of play style I think is better in March than the play style they had with Io and Kofi and Trent. So we can sit here and debate that all night, but I won't put you guys through that. All right. So anyway, we're about 45 minutes in, so I don't have much else to say. I hope y'all have a good rest of your night. I hope that we are all celebrating a win against Penn State in the middle of next week. And I hope to see Illinois back in the top 10 come Monday. I guess to end this, like I said, try to enjoy the ride, right? Like this team, a lot of fans, a lot of programs would love to be where Illinois is right now. Undoubtedly, they would love to be, right? But I understand the want for more, right? So that is what it is. Oh, I forgot to talk. I kind of talked about it, but like I forgot to talk about what's his name, Kevin Willard. We've kind of touched on it. So let me just say that it's bullshit that like his foot is on the line or whatever, or like in play. I mean, Terrence Shannon Jr. could have quite literally, imagine if he was a lot closer, he could have accidentally ran him over. You know what I mean? I think it's bullshit that they basically didn't give him a I don't even think he got a technical foul or anything. Then he got in his face, pointing his finger at him. Like, I don't get that. I really don't get that at all. It's just one of those things that I feel like in college basketball, we're just like, what are we doing? What are the refs thinking? Also, why are there 40 some fouls in this game? Like game was unwatchable. You know what I mean? Like if you weren't an Illini or a Maryland fan and you watch this, you probably bored as fuck. You probably change the channel. I could sit here and complain about the refs as much as anyone. I try not to, just because so many people do. But that's just my 2 cents. I just feel like there has to be some sort of thing against Maryland in that moment, and I don't believe there was. I don't think so, at least. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. I'm going to end the show with Mark's comment. Credit to you for podcasting instead of drinking with your friends. Big ups, young brother. Hell yeah, Mark. Thank you. Credit to you for sending a very nice comment, man. I appreciate it. All right. So again, guys, hit that like button on your way out. Hit the subscribe button. Tell your friends. March is right around the corner. They're diehard Illini fans, and they perhaps don't listen to anything. Maybe they listen to one or two, and maybe want a different perspective. Maybe I'm that perspective, or maybe you just think I don't know what I'm talking about, and you want someone else to see that I don't know what I'm talking about, or maybe it's vice versa, and you think and you think I do know what I'm talking about, and you want someone else to see that. Tell those people. All right. I appreciate y'all for your support. We've grown very steadily over the last handful of months. It means a lot. So I hope y'all have a good rest of your Saturday night and good rest of your weekend. I will talk to y'all next week. And as I say, as we always get out of here, ILL.